You've been using your voice like a toy throwing words into the air, unaware that every syllable you speak is an instruction to the universe. Your throat isn't just a passage for sound. It's an engine, a quantum transmitter, tuned to the same frequency that God spoke the universe into existence with. Physics calls it vibration. The ancients called it logos. You call it speaking. But in truth, what escapes your lips is a command sequence. You must remember you are a spiritual being having a human experience. And you have the magic of sound and vibration as your tools to actively shape reality at your very command. Don't just listen to these words, but after you are finished watching, go out and apply it to your daily life. And then you'll see the magic of what was always there manifesting right in front of your eyes. You're going to learn it all today. So stick around until the end with me. You see, everything that exists, every molecule, every star, every thought is vibration condensed into visibility. Max Planck, father of quantum theory, once said that matter is simply energy, whose vibration has been slowed down enough to be perceived by the senses. The universe is not built from things. It's built from frequencies, and the most sophisticated frequency generator you possess is the sound of your own voice. When you speak, you're not just expressing emotion or describing events. You're shaping the field that listens back. In the quantum model, observation collapses probability into 4. The act of awareness selects one outcome from infinite potential. But sound, especially sound charged with emotion and intention, is not passive observation. It's active creation. The moment you articulate a word, you create a vibration that encodes information into the quantum field, commanding energy to take shape. Ancient civilizations understood this long before we rediscovered it in laboratories. The Egyptians spoke of Hekka, the creative power of utterance. In Greek thought, logos was the divine ordering principle, the vibration behind form. In the beginning was the word, not as metaphor, but as physics. Modern cosmology echoes the same pattern. From the Big Bang to the background hum of space, reality itself began as sound. Every atom in your body is still dancing to that original frequency. But here's the secret. You were never taught. Your personal voice operates on the same principle. The words you speak modulate the electromagnetic field around you, subtly shifting the probabilities that define your experiences. Quantum field theory demonstrates that particles exist as waves until interaction gives them definition. When your voice enters the field, you are that interaction. You collapse possibility into pattern. This is why Neville Goddard taught that God and human imagination are one and the same. He wasn't being poetic. He was describing the mechanics of manifestation long before neuroscience and quantum mechanics found the language to support it. The imagination sets the frequency. The emotion powers the signal, and the voice carries it into form. Every I am statement you make writes a new line of code in your reality. Every careless word embeds a different frequency in your field. Think about it scientifically. A tuning fork vibrates and another nearby fork begins to resonate not through touch, but through coherence. This is called sympathetic resonance. Your words work the same way. When you speak with conviction, the environment adjusts itself to mirror the vibration you've emitted. Sound waves may fade, but the energetic signature remains encoded in the field like ripples in space-time. Jacobo Grinberg, the Mexican neuroscientist who studied what he called the neuronal field, demonstrated that consciousness directly influences measurable physical systems. He discovered that when two people entered deep coherence, their brainwave patterns synchronized even when separated by distance. Grinberg's data suggested that consciousness doesn't reside in the brain, but in an interconnected field that links all living beings. When you speak with awareness, your voice moves through that same field. It's not metaphorical connectivity, it's quantum entanglement in motion. This is why careless speech is dangerous. Every time you declare, "I can't," "I'm tired," or "I'm not enough," you transmit a precise frequency that reorganizes your field around limitation. The universe isn't punishing you, it's obeying you. The field doesn't filter for sarcasm or self-deprecation. It executes whatever command you issue with the most consistent emotional charge. If you speak from fear, the field builds evidence of threat. Speak from clarity, and it builds stability. In the holographic universe, Michael Talbert described reality as a vast interference pattern, where each fragment contains the information of the whole. This means every sound you release reverberates through the totality, altering not just your immediate circumstances, but the collective matrix itself. The human voice is literally holographic. It carries the blueprint of consciousness into the living fabric of space-time, but sound without awareness is static. Power without coherence becomes chaos. To activate the generative potential of voice, you must speak from alignment where thought, emotion, and intention are unified. This is the secret buried beneath centuries of myth and mysticism. When what you think, feel, and say are congruent, your words become instruments of order, sculpting matter with precision. Imagine for a moment that every sentence you utter sends ripples through the unseen sea of energy around you. When those ripples are chaotic, they cancel each other out. But when they're rhythmic, coherent, and focused, they converge into standing waves, the points of stability that draw reality toward them. Cymatics, the science of visible sound, proves that vibration organizes matter into pattern. Sand on a vibrating plate arranges itself into perfect geometric symmetry. Now replace the plate with the field of your life and the sand with the circumstances you experience. Your words are the frequency shaping the pattern. Logos, then, is not an ancient myth, but a living mechanism, the algorithm of creation encoded in every voice. You were never meant to beg the universe for change. You were meant to command it through coherence, through sound, through the authority of awareness. When your voice aligns with your emotional voltage and your inner vision, you're no longer describing reality. You're programming it. So the next time you speak, remember, you're not whispering into empty space. You're interfacing with the operating system of existence. Every tone, every syllable is data in motion. Speak with clarity. Speak with conviction. Speak with the knowing that the field is listening, waiting for instruction. Because it is. The universe doesn't respond to language, it responds to resonance. And when your resonance carries the frequency of certainty, creation has no choice but to obey. You are not just a voice among billions, you are the frequency that builds worlds. Most people feel emotion like static, chaotic surges of energy that crash through them without direction or design. They try to think their way into new realities while their nervous systems broadcast the opposite signal. Every declaration they make is drowned out by the low hum of fear, doubt, and resistance. But emotion isn't noise, it's current. It's the electrical voltage that powers every word you speak into the field of perception. In neuroscience, Antonio Damasio describes emotion as the neural mapping of the body's state. It's your biology reporting on the harmony or discord between what you believe and what you experience. Candace Pear called emotions molecules of communication, biochemical signals linking brain, body, and consciousness into a single feedback system. When that system vibrates coherently, when the brain's language of thought, the heart's rhythm of feeling, and the body's chemistry all align, you enter a state that the HeartMath Institute terms physiological coherence. In this state, your entire being behaves like a unified circuit. Every cell listens, every cell agrees. This is the secret engine beneath what the ancients called faith. It isn't blind belief, it's energetic consistency. When your emotional voltage matches your verbal frequency, you create resonance. When it doesn't, you create interference. Imagine trying to broadcast on 2 radio stations at once. One frequency announces abundance, the other whispers scarcity. The signal cancels itself. The result is static, a life that repeats the same patterns while insisting it's trying to change. Modern psychology describes this as cognitive emotional dissonance. You affirm safety while the limbic system still runs a danger program. You repeat, "I am confident," while your body trembles in micro-reactions of remembered failure. The subconscious doesn't interpret sentences. It reads sensation. If your words say yes, but your pulse says no, the body believes the pulse. The field of your perception obeys the stronger signal. That is why emotion must be trained like voltage through a wire. Too low and the circuit collapses. Too high and it burns out in drama. The art is modulation. Learning to hold intensity without distortion. Practices such as coherent breathing and focused visualization aren't mystical indulgences. They're neuroelectrical calibration techniques. They study the autonomic nervous system, allowing emotion to amplify intention instead of hijacking it. The brain's electrical activity, measured in microvolts, responds instantly to emotional state. EEG studies show that gratitude and compassion increase alpha coherence, a relaxed, alert frequency range linked to creativity and clarity. Conversely, sustained anger or fear drives erratic beta spikes that fragment attention and shorten cognitive range. In physics, coherence allows waves to build amplitude. In biology, it allows consciousness to build power. Your emotional signature becomes the carrier wave on which your words ride. Think of emotion as color added to sound. The same sentence spoken in despair or in certainty generates entirely different physiological responses in you and in those who hear you. Empathy neurons mirror tone before they parse meaning. Mirror neuron research at the University of Palmer proved that humans literally feel the emotions they observe. You are always broadcasting. The question is not whether your emotion programs reality, but which version of reality your emotion programs you to perceive. Neville Goddard's insight that imagination and feeling are the creative act itself aligns with what Damasio later formalized. Feeling is the experience of being alive to one's own imagining. When you pair a mental picture with the physiological signature of joy, gratitude, or certainty, the brain treats that image as a lived event. Neuroplasticity rewires the circuits accordingly. In this sense, emotional resonance is subconscious programming, repetition under voltage until the body accepts the new frequency as normal. Here lies the difference between speaking affirmations and issuing commands. An affirmation is wishful thinking sent from the cortex. A command is an instruction powered by the full charge of coherent emotion. The former asks, the latter declares. The body knows the difference. When feeling and word fuse, you feel heat rise through the chest, resonance in the ribs, an unmistakable sense that the statement has weight. That weight is voltage. Emotion, then, is not weakness, but propulsion. High-frequency states, joy, love, or expand neural connectivity and release dopamine and oxytocin, chemicals that literally increase the brain's capacity for insight and trust. Low-frequency states, shame, fear, resentment, tighten muscular and perceptual fields, restricting what possibilities you can even notice. The universe of potential shrinks or expands in proportion to your emotional bandwidth. In practical terms, mastery begins with emotional literacy, identifying not only what you feel, but where it lives in the body, what breath pattern sustains it, and what story feeds it. The goal isn't suppression, but transmutation, transforming reactive energy into directive energy. Anger becomes focus, fear becomes alertness, sadness becomes depth. Each emotion, when harmonized, contributes to the total current powering your voice. From a systems view, emotion is the bridge between inner and outer order. It carries information from the subconscious into awareness and back again, ensuring feedback. When you ignore that feedback, you overload the circuit, manifesting confusion, fatigue, or illness. When you listen and regulate, the circuit stabilizes, and speech becomes precision engineering rather than random discharge. The ancients symbolized this as fire, the divine element that can illuminate or destroy. Modern neuroscience calls it arousal. The mechanism is the same. Controlled fire gives light. Uncontrolled fire consumes. To master emotion is to master fire, and to speak from that balanced flame is to imprint coherence on every level of your being. So the next time emotion surges through you, don't rush to silence it. Measure it. Feel its voltage. Ask what frequency it's broadcasting, then channel it deliberately through your words. Because every time you speak, you're not simply moving air, you're transmitting charge. Emotion is the current, voice is the conductor. Together they form the circuitry through which consciousness becomes visible. Clarity is power, not the loud kind that forces, but the still kind that shapes. Most people speak from confusion. They throw words into the air and hope something listens. But creation doesn't respond to noise. It responds to precision. The moment you become clear, every fragment of you aligns behind that vision. The mind quiets. The breath steadies. The voice stops asking and begins declaring. This is where command begins. Not in effort, but in certainty. When you decide fully, the universe no longer receives mixed signals. You stop negotiating with yourself. The field hears one frequency and moves to meet it. Clarity is not the absence of doubt. It's the refusal to speak from it. To command is not to control. It's to stand inside your own coherence so completely that reality has no option but to reflect it. You don't force doors to open. You become the vibration that doors recognize. When you reach this state, you don't chase outcomes. They orbit around you. You've become the still point in the turning world. And then comes the test, trust. After you've spoken the word, the mind will want to clutch, to check, to push. But command requires release. True trust is not passive surrender. It's active confidence. It's knowing the seed has already taken root beneath the soil. Even when nothing has yet broken through the surface, you don't dig it up to check. You water it. You keep tending the space that's already working in your favor. Trust is spacious. It loosens the grip of control and allows movement to flow back toward you. Where clarity sets the direction, trust keeps the channel open. It's the calm after the command, the breath after the word. You're not waiting, you're receiving. Receiving is not submission. It is alignment. It's the readiness to recognize what's already arriving. The universe doesn't hide your answers. It places them in plain sight, right outside your usual habits of perception. To receive is to soften enough to see what your tension kept you blind to. The opportunity, the insight, the sudden nudge in a conversation. These are the echoes of your command, finding their way home. This is the rhythm of creation. Clarity, trust, receiving, speak, release, allow. It's a living cycle that repeats with every breath. When you inhale, you take in life signal. When you exhale, you send yours back. The two are never separate. They're the same current, moving in opposite directions. When you resist, you block that current. When you trust, you let it circulate until life begins to mirror your inner tone. Embodiment is where the cycle completes. The command is no longer something you say. It's something you are. Every movement, every word, every silence hums with the same certainty. You've stopped chasing power and started being power. You've stopped performing faith and started living as its frequency. Embodiment is not about perfection. It's about congruence. You can feel when your inner state and your outer actions are aligned. Everything becomes simple, almost effortless. Even challenges lose their edge because they no longer threaten your center. You move like water, adjusting, not surrendering, flowing, not falling. To embody the command is to realize that nothing stands outside you. Life isn't happening to you, it's responding through you. Your voice, your emotion, your presence are not separate instruments. They're facets of the same tone. When that tone holds steady, the world harmonizes around it. Clarity gives direction. Trust provides space. Receiving completes the circle. Together, they form the quiet authority of creation itself. There is no pleading, no hoping, no fear, only coherence, only the living echo of your own declaration moving through everything you touch. So take a moment now. Breathe. Let the body settle into what it already knows. The ground beneath you holds the same intelligence that formed the stars. When you speak, it listens. When you relax, it answers. When you stand in full alignment, clear, trusting, open, you become what the ancients called the Word made flesh, not poetry, presence, not belief, reality in motion. And in that moment, there is nothing left to manifest, nothing left to reach for. You are the command, the release, and the receiving, all happening in one continuous act of creation. Everything you've learned circles back to one truth. You were never separate from the force that moves worlds. The same current that flung galaxies into motion hums quietly inside your breath. The same intelligence that carved rivers and lit the stars listens every time you speak. You were never meant to plead with reality. You were meant to remember that you are reality speaking to itself. The journey began with sound, with the word, the first vibration, the cosmic pulse that taught form how to exist. You discovered that voice is not metaphor, but mechanism, the carrier of intention through the field of being. Every syllable you utter is a signal, every tone a blueprint. The universe does not judge, it only echoes what you send. Then you descended into the engine itself, the power behind the sound, emotion, the voltage that lights the word, the resonance that gives language its gravity. When feeling and thought align, your voice becomes command. When they divide, you generate static. You learn that emotion is not weakness but fuel, not chaos but direction. When held with clarity, it reshapes the boundaries of what you call possible. Finally, you arrived at embodiment, the state beyond theory, the place where command, trust, and receiving merge into one continuous rhythm of being. Here, speech is no longer something you do. It's what you are. You don't tell the universe what to build. You stand as the pattern through which it builds. Now listen to the space between words, the pause after each thought. That silence isn't emptiness, it's origin. It's the unspoken frequency that holds everything you've ever created. When you touch that silence, you meet the source before sound, the still point that makes command possible. This is the completion. To speak from silence, to act without strain, to trust without proof, and to receive without demand. The cycle repeats endlessly, sound to silence, silence to sound. You are the bridge. So when you open your mouth again, do it with awareness. Each word is a seed of form, each tone a thread in the fabric of what comes next. Speak gently when the world trembles. Speak firmly when your own doubt rises. Speak clearly, not to change reality, but to remind it what it already knows. Because in the end, you are not here to shout at the heavens or whisper to fate. You are here to remember that the divine voice you've been searching for was never above you, never beyond you. It has always been the sound of your own becoming. And when that realization lands, you will understand. The word was never about creation alone. It was always about return. The voice that commands the universe eventually remembers the stillness it came from and becomes the silence that creates again. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next.